Ralph Jackson smirked as alien weapons fire pummeled his body harmlessly, the bewildered Galactic Council realizing with dawning horror that humans were immune to the galaxy's deadliest arms. The grizzled, unshaven soldier stood alone in the center of the massive amphitheater, representatives from 1,000 worlds jeering and screaming for his blood. Ralph's hands and legs were shackled with humming energy cuffs, the weathered, wrinkled human locked eyes with the Lemnorian prosecutor Umbra. "This human butchered thousands of Lemnorian troops," Umbra screeched, his forked tongue flicking in rage. "He used banned chemical weapons against us. There can be only one punishment: immediate execution." Howls and chants of approval rang out from the assembled aliens. Clawed fists, tentacles and appendages thrust into the air in unified bloodthirst. Ralph calmly shook his head. "I killed no one. Your weapons are useless against me." "Impossible!" Umbra slammed a talon on his floating podium. "Our guns cannot harm Lemnorians. You speak lies." Ralph cracked his neck side to side. "I demand trial by combat. Give me your best weapons. Shoot me. If I die, I'm guilty. If I live, I'm innocent and free." Umbra's reptilian eyes narrowed to slits. The Lemnorian slowly turned to the council leader in his bubbling nutrient tank. "What say you?" Umbra asked, mandibles clicking. The ancient tentacled creature gurgled and said one word. "Commence." As guards snapped off his cuffs, Ralph rubbed his wrists, hiding a smile. The human survival and humanity's place in the galaxy would now depend on the ancient secrets flowing through his veins. Little did the aliens know that the key to invincible soldiers had been hidden away on lowly Earth all along. The fools had no idea what they were in for. The arena hummed with tension as Ralph stood at one end, facing down the phalanx of Lemnorian soldiers. Their chitinous armor glinted menacingly under the harsh lights, the soldiers' compound eyes fixed on their human opponent. Above, Umbra watched from his hover platform, a cruel smile twisting his insectoid features. The council leader's voice boomed over the loudspeakers, echoing through the cavernous space. "Ralph Jackson, you have chosen trial by combat. If you survive the Lemnorian weapons, you will be exonerated. If you fall, your guilt will be proven. Let the trial commence." At Umbra's signal, the soldiers opened fire. Searing bolts of plasma streaked towards Ralph, the heat of their passage causing the air to shimmer and warp. The human remained motionless, his stance relaxed, his expression impassive. The bolts struck him head-on, enveloping him in a blinding flash of light and a deafening roar that shook the arena. The council gasped, certain that no being could survive such an onslaught. But as the smoke cleared, Ralph was still standing, his clothes singed and smoking, but his body unharmed. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the assembled aliens. Confused and unnerved, the soldiers fired again and again, their weapons whining as they discharged plasma at a furious rate. But it was to no avail. Ralph advanced slowly, relentlessly, each step measured and deliberate. The plasma bolts dissipated harmlessly against his skin, leaving no mark, no sign of injury. Umbra, enraged by this display of invulnerability, barked an order to the soldiers. They switched to kinetic rounds, hypersonic slugs that could punch through the thickest armor. The slugs whined through the air, only to flatten against Ralph's chest and fall to the ground as harmless as raindrops. The human reached the soldiers, who fell back in terror, their weapons clattering to the floor as they realized the futility of their efforts. Ralph stooped and picked up a discarded rifle, turning it over in his hands, examining it with a curiosity that bordered on amusement. In the stands, the council watched in stunned silence, unable to comprehend the scene unfolding before them. Their greatest weapons, the tools of conquest and domination, were utterly useless against this lone human. Umbra, his plans unraveling, let out a snarl of frustration. He leaped from his hover platform, drawing a wicked-looking plasma blade from his belt. If his soldiers could not defeat this human, he would do it himself. He advanced on Ralph, his blade humming with deadly energy, his eyes glinting with malice. The human turned to face him, the rifle still held loosely in his hands, a faint smile playing across his weathered features. Umbra's plasma blade hummed with deadly intensity as he landed in front of Ralph, his compound eyes glittering with malevolence. "You may be immune to our weapons, human, but let's see how you fare against a warrior of the Lemnorian elite guard," Umbra hissed, his mandibles clicking in anticipation. Ralph dropped the rifle, cracking his knuckles with a nonchalant air. "Bring it on, bug boy." Umbra lunged, his blade a blur of motion. Ralph dodged the first strike, the searing heat of the plasma singeing his hair. He retaliated with a punch that would have pulverized concrete, but Umbra's insectoid agility allowed him to evade the blow. The Lemnorian leaped over Ralph's head, slashing at his back. The blade skittered off Ralph's skin, leaving a faint scorch mark, but failing to draw blood. Ralph spun, snatching Umbra's arm and hurling him across the arena with superhuman strength. The Lemnorian slammed into the reinforced metal wall, leaving a sizable crater. Umbra staggered to his feet, his exoskeleton cracked, but his resolve unbroken. "Impossible. No creature can withstand our weapons. What are you?" Umbra demanded, his voice laced with a mixture of awe and fear. Ralph advanced, his eyes hard and unyielding. "I'm a human, and I'm done playing games." Umbra charged again, his blade held high, desperation fueling his assault. Ralph met him head-on, their clash sending shockwaves reverberating through the arena. The human weathered Umbra's furious onslaught, his skin impervious to the plasma blade's bite. With a final mighty blow, Ralph shattered Umbra's blade, sending the Lemnorian sprawling. The council watched in stunned silence, their amazement morphing into fear as they grasped the implications of Ralph's immunity. If human skin could resist the most advanced weapons in the galaxy, what chance did their races stand against the might of Earth? Umbra, broken and beaten, gazed up at Ralph with a mixture of awe and terror. What do you want?" he rasped, his voice barely above a whisper. Ralph's eyes narrowed, his expression hardening. "I want answers, and you're going to give them to me." Ralph shoved Umbra into a dark, windowless room deep within the Galactic Council's sprawling complex. The space was bare, except for a single chair bolted to the floor under a flickering light. Ralph slammed the door shut and advanced on the cowering Lemnorian, his footsteps echoing off the cold metal walls. "Sit." Ralph's voice was low and menacing. Umbra obeyed, sinking into the chair, his compound eyes darting around in fear. Ralph loomed over him, his weathered face cast in harsh shadows. "Talk, why did you frame me for war crimes?" Umbra's mandibles twitched nervously. It was not my plan, I was merely following orders." Ralph leaned in closer, his breath hot on Umbra's face. "Whose orders?" A shudder ran through Umbra's battered exoskeleton. He hesitated as if weighing his options, then relented under Ralph's unrelenting glare. "The councils. They fear humanity's growing influence, your technology, your culture, your very biology. It's all a threat to their power." A cold realization washed over Ralph. The pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place. So they wanted to make an example of me, to show that even the strongest human could be brought to heel. Umbra nodded, his head bobbing. "But they underestimated you, we all did. Your immunity to our weapons, it should not be possible." Ralph's mind raced as he grappled with the implications. If the Council saw humanity as a threat, then Earth was in danger. He needed to warn his people, to prepare them for the coming storm. But first he needed proof. Ralph hauled Umbra to his feet, his grip like a vice on the Lemnorian's arm. "You're going to testify before the Council. You're going to tell them everything, or I'll show you just how immune I am to your pain." Umbra, broken and terrified, could only nod. Ralph dragged Umbra out of the room and through the labyrinthine corridors of the Council's headquarters. His mind churned with the weight of the galaxy's fate bearing down on him. The truth would come out, and the balance of power would shift. But in which direction and at what cost remained to be seen. As they approached the council chamber, the murmur of 1,000 alien voices grew louder. Ralph steeled himself, knowing that what happened next would determine not only his fate, but the fate of his entire species. He shoved the doors open and strode in, Umbra stumbling along beside him. The chamber fell silent, as all eyes turned to the human and the battered Lemnorian, In the center of the room, the ancient council leader floated in his nutrient tank, his tentacles swaying gently. Ralph marched forward, his grip never loosening on Umbra. He came to a halt before the council leader and met the alien's inscrutable gaze. "I have proof of your treachery," Ralph declared, his voice ringing through the chamber. "Proof that you framed me, that you see humanity as a threat to your power." He shoved Umbra forward. The Lemnorian stumbled and fell to his knees, trembling before the council leader. "Tell them," Ralph growled. "Tell them everything, or I'll make you wish you had." Umbra looked up at the council leader, terror etched on his insectoid features. His mandibles worked soundlessly for a moment before he found his voice. It's true," Umbra whispered, his words carrying in the silence. "We framed the human. We feared his species' power. We sought to control them." A murmur of shock and outrage rippled through the assembled aliens. The council leader's tentacles writhed, his ancient eyes narrowing. Ralph stood tall, his gaze sweeping over the council. "Now you know the truth. The question is, what will you do with it?" The council chamber erupted into a cacophony of shocked gasps and outraged shouts as Ralph flung open the doors, dragging a battered Umbra behind him. The human's heavy footfalls echoed in the sudden, stunned silence as he strode to the center of the room, the Lemnorian stumbling and whimpering in his wake. With a grunt, Ralph hurled Umbra to the polished floor at the feet of the council members, who recoiled in a mix of fear and revulsion. "You wanted the truth?" Ralph's voice boomed, his eyes blazing with righteous fury. "Well, here it is. Umbra framed me on your orders. You're all complicit in this plot against humanity." The ancient council leader rose from his nutrient tank, his tentacles writhing in agitation. "You have no proof," he gurgled, his voice trembling despite his efforts to maintain composure. "It is your word against ours." Ralph's lips curled into a grim smile. He tapped his chest, his fingers drumming against the worn fabric of his shirt. "I have all the proof I need right here. My immunity to your weapons. That's all the evidence humanity will need to know that you see us as a threat." The council members exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions ranging from nervousness to outright panic. The implications of Ralph's words sank in like a lead weight. If the truth of their machinations got out, it could spark an interstellar war, one they were ill-prepared to fight against an enemy they couldn't seem to harm. Ralph turned on his heel, his boots scuffing against the floor as he strode towards the exit. He paused at the threshold, his broad shoulders silhouetted against the bright light of the corridor beyond. "I'm going back to Earth," he declared, his words ringing with finality. "I'm going to tell my people everything that happened here. We'll be ready for you." With that, he vanished into the light, leaving a stunned and horrified council in his wake. The chamber descended into chaos, a cacophony of arguing voices and slamming appendages. Some called for immediate action against Earth, demanding a preemptive strike before the humans could mobilize. Others, more cautious, advocated for diplomacy and appeasement, desperate to avoid a conflict they feared they couldn't win. In the end, after hours of heated debate, they settled on a course of uneasy détente. They would bide their time, pouring their resources into developing new weapons, ones that could pierce the seemingly invulnerable human skin. It was a desperate gamble, a race against time before the truth inevitably came out, and the galaxy was plunged into the fires of war. Light years away, Ralph emerged from his sleeper pod, the blue-green marble of Earth filling his viewport. He was hailed as a hero, the man who had stood against the alien menace and exposed their treachery. But even as the accolades poured in, Ralph knew his mission was far from over. He threw himself into preparations, training a new generation of warriors and scientists, honing humanity's defenses against the coming storm. As the years passed and tensions mounted, as humanity expanded its reach and the Galactic Council watched with growing unease, Ralph couldn't shake the feeling that his immunity, once a blessing, may have doomed his species to an eternity of conflict. In the quiet moments, when the weight of the galaxy seemed to press down on his shoulders, Ralph would stare up at the stars, wondering if, in the end, Humanity's greatest strength would be its ultimate downfall. The galaxy trembled at the prospect of a human empire, one forged in the crucible of war and tempered by the indomitable will of a single, immune soldier. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.